Dredge is a deck that can just come out so explosively. Todd Anderson, how can he interact with Dredge here? Deathrite Shaman. That is really the only way. I mean, he has some counter spells. He can counter Force of Will, a Dread Return, but oftentimes it's not really the Dread Return itself that's doing damage. It's all of the zombie tokens that are triggering off of sacrificing the creatures because of Bridge from Below.
Yeah.
So Deathrite Shaman is going to do some work here. You got to have a turn one. You got to have the ability to defend against those dredge cards. Be able to use a Deathrite Shaman to exile a Golgari Grave Troll or a Stinkweed Imp.
Yep.
As for who's favorite, I think Dredge is favorite. Like when you only have those Deathrite Shamans is real defense here, especially in game one. I don't think Todd Anderson is going to be able to pull out the match, but he will make a good match out of it.
Now, Anderson and Shrout have both mulligan to 6 cards here. You see Shrout lead off with the Lion's Eye Diamond, daring Anderson to counter with Force of Will. He does not have one, so it's good to go. Now, Shrout plays his first land, which is a City of Brass, and now he's trying to figure out how he wants to navigate his turn, because he does have a Careful Study over there. But, you know, he needs to be a little bit wary of a card like Force of Will. So, you know, he's got some decisions he needs to make here. Now, luckily for him, Dredge is a deck that does mulligan quite well, where Anderson's deck does mulligan significantly worse than Shrout's does. So, let's see what Shrout's going to do on this mulligan to 6 and how he wants to navigate the opening turns of this game.
Alright, so he's tapping that City of Brass. He could be leading here with a Careful Study, a Faithless Looting. Faceless Looting, yeah, sure, why not? Or a Breakthrough for X equals 0. It is the Careful Study. Oh. And he sacrifices the Lion's Eye Diamond in response to the spell.
So chances are he sacrificed this for triple red, so in case he hits a Faithless Looting. So Dredge 1, 2, 3, and 4. So Stinkweed Imp. He's going to Dredge again. There's also Cabal Therapy, a Bridge from Below, and a Cephalid Coliseum. So 5 cards coming, Bridge from Below, Careful Study, Gemstone Mine, Cephalid Coliseum, and a City of Brass. So the Lion's Eye Diamond sacrifice holding priority while casting Careful Study does not net Shrout very much. We're looking at no Narcomoeba. We're not. I mean, we do have some Bridge from Belows, and we have excuse me, an Ichrid, but not the best Dredge I've ever seen.
No, and you see the Narcomoeba in the graveyard there. That was discarded from his hand when he activated the Lion's Eye Diamond. So, Todd Anderson, do you have the Deathrite Shaman? No, sir. No Deathrite Shaman on turn 1, so Andrew Shrout is going to go to work here. He's going to exile a black creature. It's the Stinkweed Imp he is dredging to his hand, so he exiled the black creature to return Ichrid. He is now dredging his draw step.
He hits another Ichrid, a Stinkweed Imp, and a Cabal Therapy, and now he's going to Source of Plowshares this Ichrid that has been brought back. So this means, again, because it is going to be removed from the game, no Bridge from Below triggers are going to take place. So Shrout's going to gain a little bit of life, but Todd wanted to do that after the draw step, inside his draw step, before he gets to his upkeep, just to glean some more information.
Yeah, and he wants to Swords Plowshares before Andrew Shrout has an opportunity to use that Cabal Therapy sacrifice. Even though most likely Andrew Shrout would attack first with the Ichrid, you just don't want to give him the opportunity there to get the zombie token engine going with Bridge from Below.
Yeah, definitely not. I'm definitely right there with you. And now here is a Dark Confidant, new art style. I know, Riki, it'll be okay. It's not Bob.
It could still be Bob. It could be Bob from an alternate universe, I've decided.
All right.
Like in the new Star Trek reboot, how Spock is Zachary Quinto and Leonard Nimoy.
Oh.
So I'm trying to come to grips with this in my own sci-fi fashion.
To each their own. So Shrout is going to dredge 5 cards. Stinkweed Imp is going to go back to the hand. Let's see what the 5 cards are. Golgari Thug, Bridge from Below number 3, Gemstone Mine, Cabal Therapy, and Narcomoeba. That last one is a good one.
Yeah. So, notably, Andrew Shrout did not trigger and put his Ichrid onto the battlefield because the only black creature he had was that Stinkweed Imp, and he wanted to make sure to get the biggest dredge possible. And there you go. On card number 5, he hit the Narcomoeba. And now the engine is churning. He flashes back Cabal Therapy, sacrificing Narcomoeba, and gets 3 zombie tokens. Targets himself, names Stinkweed Imp. Well, I guess I'll discard these cards.
Interesting that he did not target Todd there. You see Todd's hand right now, though. He has 4 lands in his hand, 2 Wastelands, a Bayou, and a Polluted Delta. So Todd actually has no action right now, and it's on Dark Confidant to save Anderson this game.
He's shaking his head there. Maybe saying, why did I keep this hand?
I mean, he already did take 1 mulligan, and I think he knew that Shrout is playing Dredge, and he knows that it's a pretty bad matchup for him game 1. He's going to have to get a little bit fortunate, but Shrout has a pretty good draw here. Not a great draw, but a pretty good one already. So it's going to be pretty difficult. It's just Shrout kind of weighing his options. He's got his 3 zombies, and he's just going to pass the turn back. So Anderson's going to reveal Thoughtseize, which has no text right now.
It has text, lose 1 life.
Yeah. Now he's going to draw a card for the turn. He finds a Ponder, so at least he can get a little deeper into his deck. Force of Will, Brainstorm, and an Underground Sea are the cards that he's looking at with Ponder. Brainstorm being the best of the bunch by a significant margin, I believe.
Yeah, and he's got that Polluted Delta, so what he can do here is put the Brainstorm on top, draw it, and then play his Polluted Delta crack to reset the top of his library. There he goes. Todd Anderson looking for an answer to this problem. The problem is 3 Bridge from Belows in Andrew Shrout's graveyard. The Dredge deck using the graveyard as a resource. And it's going to get messier here.
And it only gets worse before it gets better. So this Brainstorm is going to have to be pretty good. I think, again, at this point, because Shrout's graveyard is so full, how good is a Death Rage I'm going to be at this point? Doesn't seem like it's going to be great. You see Brainstorm, Todd going to quickly resolve this. Jace the Mind Sculptor, Snapcaster Mage, and Wastelands are the draw. So Todd's going to put back 2 cards. You saw him immediately reach for 2 Wastelands, but it looks like he's going to put back maybe Wasteland and Snapcaster Mage. But he's in a little bit of trouble here.
Yeah, he really... I mean, one thing he could find here was... what, a removal spell?
Another
for
Swords?
His own Dark Confidant?
Yeah, I mean, it would have to be, it can't be Swords because that won't trigger it. It actually has to be something that destroys the Dark Confidant. Dark Confidant can be on blocking duty here if Shrout does make a misstep, but I would be surprised if he does do that. So he's going to bring back Icarid on his upkeep. We'll see what he's going to remove. It's going to be a Golgari Thug, and it looks like we're probably going to see a Dredge of 5 here off of Stinkweed Imp.
There he goes. He picks up the Stinkweed Imp. 1 careful study. Lion's Eye Diamond. Faithless looting. Careful study. So a relatively safe dredge there for Todd Anderson. Doesn't really add anything for Andrew Shrout, but he already has most of the resources he needs.
Yeah, he's already got triple Bridge from Below down there. He does have 2 more Cabal Therapies as well. Doesn't have a Golgari Grave Troll to be able to dredge big time just yet, but he does have 1 more Dredger down there in Stinkweed Imp. He also doesn't have anything great to Dread Return, even though I'm not sure if that's in his graveyard or not. Can't make it out. I don't think it is. So while Shrout is doing okay, you know, if you're Anderson, you're not thrilled, but you're not disappointed yet either. You know, you're basically saying, all right, I still have a chance.
Still does have a chance. Here we go. Cabal Therapy, sacrificing Icarid, getting 3 more zombies. Andrew Shrout now with 6 2/2 zombie tokens.
So he targets Anderson with Cabal Therapy. Interested to see what he is naming. Name Force of Will. Did not hit. You see Anderson's hand of 3 lands. He's got that Jace over there and that Thoughtseize.
He has Snapcaster and Thoughtseize? So
it might be
on
Snapcaster,
top of his library?
So he hid the Jace, sure. Can't cast it that turn anyway, so it makes sense.
Right. And we see a Judge Call on the feature match behind them. If I could teleport, oh man, it's way too far.
And in for 3. So he's basically offering up a trade here. This is going to kill the Dark Confidant, but it's also going to kill the 3 Bridge from Belows.
Yeah.
It looks like Shrout to me just is saying, all right, I want to just try to get this game over with. I've got enough of an advantage. Let's start pushing these zombie tokens across. So now Cabal Therapy. Going to hit Snapcaster Mage, so Todd did a nice job of hiding the Jace the Mind Sculptor.
So now, how does this work with the math? If you cast Jace the Mind Sculptor here, bounce 1 of the tokens, leaving 3 tokens, is Andrew Shrout going to be forced to spend at least some of it? No, Todd Anderson's going to go for the Brainstorm.
Boy. and he hits a detention sphere off the Brainstorm, he's going to hide that one almost immediately. I actually like the Brainstorm here because, one, it gets Todd deeper into his deck, but two, it forces Shrout's hand a little bit on what do you want to do? Do you want to attack me or do you want to attack my Jace? It's your call. And I like that part of this play a lot here because Faith Healing obviously doesn't do very much, and on summoning a guy, while it does kill it, I mean, Shrout also has that Icarid down there at the ready. He only does have one black creature left in Stinkweed Imp, but again, I actually like this play a lot here by Anderson because it forces Shrout to make a decision, and oftentimes you want to put your opponent in a position to make a mistake, and that's what Anderson's doing here. Is he's giving Shrout the opportunity to misallocate his resources and make a mistake.
And you said there was a detention sphere there in that
Yes.
Brainstorm. I did not see that, but I'll take your word for it.
He put that one back on top real fast. He does not want that to be hit by a Cabal Therapy. That is dredged if Shrout does dredge this turn.
That detention sphere is a singleton in Todd's main deck, and we've already seen it go to town in an earlier matchup against Maverick, where he exiled 3 Noble Hierarchs.
So Icarid comes back, Stinkweed Imp is gone, and I think, yeah, Shrout is actually going to take a normal draw step here. So he is going the distance, going for speed.
Icarid on Jace here and 8 to Todd, or is he going all to Todd?
He goes all to
all
Todd.
to Todd.
Wow, all right.
So there you go. We know what's coming. It's Detention Sphere. It's going to hit all of those zombie tokens.
Brainstorm 1, Thoughtseize. Brainstorm, Umazawa's Jite. Now he just needs a guy for the Jite. Boy, if Todd comes back and wins this game.
And yeah, surveying Andrew's graveyard, he is out of black creatures to exile for that Icarid.
He wastelands the 1 land. Icarid can't come back. Detention Sphere takes care of the tokens. Todd has Brainstorm mana available. Shrout draws his card, passes the turn back. Anderson cannot untap fast enough. Brainstorm yet again. 2 and 3. Stoneforge Mystic. Oh my goodness. He is coming on back, my friends. He is coming on back.
So he's going to fetch his Batterskull out here. He's got Jite in hand, or did he put the Jite back on one of his Brainstorms?
I think he kept the Jite. He's probably going to play the Jite this turn.
Yeah.
Passes the turn, so he's not going to play the Jite. Shrout draws a card, and Shrout is going to concede the game. Ooh, do you see Todd take a deep breath and a sigh of relief? And I'm right there with you, buddy. One heck of a win there. So Todd Anderson wins game number 1 by not removing a single card from Andrew Shrout's graveyard.
Todd, tell him that Detention Sphere's a singleton.
Don't tell him that. What's wrong with you?
All right, don't tell him that.
Don't tell him that.
Bring in another one, though. He's got more in the sideboard, right? One more in the sideboard.
Yeah, we'll take a look at Shrout's sideboard first to see what he can do to kind of fix things here, as game 1 is normally very favorable for him against Deathblade, but you know, Todd didn't even have Deathrite Shaman there. So what can Shrout do now looking at the sideboard?
That was the game plan. Andrew Shrout should have won that game, it seems like.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure out what went wrong there. Andrew Shrout in his sideboard, he's got 2 Pithing Needles. I think you want to bring those in. You can lock out the Deathrite Shaman. You can lock out Stoneforge Mystic. You can lock out Jace the Mind Sculptor. Plenty of options there. For Nature's Claims, certainly, depending on what he thinks Todd is doing, that is always an option for the Dredge deck to bring in. And we saw the Detention Sphere destroying the Detention Sphere of Nature's Claim. Not going to do much when it's taking tokens. So, I don't know, does Todd have something else in his sideboard he would bring in that Andrew Shrout has to respect with Nature's Claim?
So, the cards that Todd has in his sideboard, 2 Thoughtseize, a Disenchant, 1 Force of Will, 2 Supreme Verdicts to kind of clean up some zombies, which have been useful that game, 3 Geist of Saint Draft if he really wants to pressure the opponent, 2 Meddling Mages, which we'll get to in a moment. But he does have an additional Detention Sphere and 2 Relic of Progenitus, so those are cards in Relic of Progenitus that are worth killing with Nature's Claim. So, the interesting thing here in Todd's sideboard is he actually has a bevy of options in different ways that he can build his deck after sideboard. You look at Geist of Saint Traft as a way to really pressure Shrout, lower his curve, and get the job done very quickly. That's an option. Meddling Mage, he can board that in and name Dread Return. He can also maybe name Faithless Looting, Lion's Eye Diamond, something of that nature. He has a lot of wiggle room for what he can name. You know, back in extended days when Dredge was a deck, people would board in Meddling Mage simply to name Dread Return. Make it so that you cannot return a big creature and get some zombies off of it. So maybe Todd will, you know, employ that strategy. Again, Relic Progenitus is obviously going to come in. I wouldn't be surprised to see an additional Attention Sphere come in with how good it was that game. But also, I wouldn't be surprised to see 2 Supreme Verdicts come in either, because if Todd gets himself in a similar situation as that game, he can clear all the zombies up and be okay.
But, excuse me, are those types of sorcery speed answers best here against Dredge? Because ideally, right, the Dredge deck goes off in one big sweep, gets all those zombie tokens, and then flashes back Dread Return on the Flamekin Zealot, giving everything haste. So do you even get the opportunity to use a card like Supreme Verdict?
Well, I don't know if you get to do it every game, but I think there are game states that lend itself to be able to do that. And again, it's not like Todd is siding in 4 of these. He's only going to have 2, and I'm not even saying he has to sideboard in both of them. Maybe he sideboards just 1 to have a bit of a hedge, or maybe he thinks that Attention Sphere cleans up the zombies in such a manner that he doesn't need Supreme Verdict. But one thing to keep in mind if he's going to board in Supreme Verdict or Detention Sphere is that either way, both of those cards can be removed to force a wolf for the alternate casting cost. So they do have some utility there as well. Instead of just being a wrath, they pull double duty. So I'm interested to see how Todd's going to go with this, because I think the easy cards to sideboard out are like the 2 Thought Seizes, the 2 copies of Abrupt Decay, and then maybe he sideboards out one of his equipment, maybe he leaves them both in. I don't think Vendilion Clique is great in this matchup either. So he's got he's got many different avenues that he can go if he wants to speed things up, if he wants to slow things down, try to be more controlling. I'm really interested to see how he's going to go, because I know that first game, and you saw it when we panned back to him, pretty deep breath, a sigh of relief that he got out of that one alive.
Yeah, in his brain, he must be thinking the same thing I'm thinking. It's like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
He couldn't have crafted it any better, if he'd scripted it himself.
Mm-hmm.
Looking up to the sky there, the Singleton Detention Sphere in his main deck, cleaning up those 2/2 zombie tokens. He also, early on in the game, had a very timely Swords to Plowshares on Andrew Shrout's first Icarid, slowing down the engine as well. So he did not have the Deathrite Shaman, as we said, was one of the key cards, but he certainly pulled it together with a combination of other cards doing their duty.
Yeah, Icarid key for this Dredge deck. Again, the extended Dredge deck that I am used to, that some people may be used to, did not have Icarid available to it. It had to work with the old Bloodghast, who's a good man. I like myself a Bloodghast. But Icarid is probably more powerful than Bloodghast is, and so, this is a very important resource for Dredge decks, and to have that Swords of Plowshares may seem minuscule, may not be that big of a deal, but it actually changed the dynamic of that game a lot.
So Andrew Shrout, considering his opening 7, Todd Anderson not going to pick up his cards until Andrew says keep or mulligan.
A standoff. A showdown.
What's it going to be?
Doesn't want to give away any info. I like it. But even if Shrout were to mulligan, as you saw last game, he mulligan down to 6. This is a deck that mulligans incredibly, incredibly well. So it's not the end of the world if he has to go down to 6 or even 5. Or as we saw in Dallas at the beginning of this year, we watched Dave Thomas mulligan down to 4. I think he killed his opponent on turn 3. So it ain't no thing for the old Dredge deck.
So Andrew Shrout decides to keep his opening hand of 7 after thinking about it for quite some time. Now Todd is also thinking. He reached for his deck there momentarily, and Todd Anderson keeps as well.
Shrout is going to cast Cabal Therapy, but who is he targeting with Cabal Therapy?
He's got to be targeting himself. If that's his first play, yeah, there he goes. He puts his hand down, and he discards the Stinkweed Imp.
Now you see a hand of 2 Narcomoebas, a Pithing Needle, and a Street Wraith.
Now we know what he was thinking about, because those 2 Narcomoebas in hand are essentially a mulligan.
Yeah,
like, he only had 5 real cards.
That is not where those want to be at all.
And with his first and currently only land being Gemstone Mine, he's going to be hard-pressed to even hardcast those Narcomoebas.
So Anderson's going to draw a card for the turn. He finds a Detention Sphere, the Game 1 winner.
But perhaps this game more key in being a blue card to pitch to Force of Will. We see Todd has 2 of them in his hand. Gonna sack a Polluted Delta here.
Let's see what we find. It's going to be a Tropical Island to start the show.
Now, how is Andrew Shrout, the Dredge player on the right, going to craft his game here.
And now a Deathrite Shaman has shown up to the party here for Anderson. Shrout telling Todd, I immediately regret this keep, as Todd actually has full information on what Shrout kept. So we're going to start with a dredge of 5 for Stinkweed now. Let's take a look, Skipoo, at these 5 cards. Gemstone Mine, Careful Study, Cabal Therapy, Dread Return, and Dread Return. None of those cards say the words dredge on them.
Nor do they say bridge from below. So Andrew's going to play the Piling Needle, and it immediately gets countered by Force of Will from Todd Anderson. And that's the problem there. Todd Anderson, seeing Andrew's hand via the Cabal Therapy, knew that Needle was coming, played the Deathrite Shaman anyway, had the Force of Will. He's just thinking of what to pitch here, what to exile.
Yeah, he's got a Force of Will, a Brainstorm, and a Detention Sphere in his hand. I feel like Detention Sphere is the weakest of the bunch right now, and he can probably let that go, but it also does give him, you know, the ability to hedge in case anything goes wrong, so keeping that is certainly understandable, but I don't think I want to get rid of another Force of Will. But Todd decides differently, and the reason I don't want to get rid of another Force of Will is because it just makes me feel safe when I have another one, that's all. In case I make some sort of mistake.
I mean, what's one of the ways that Andrew can get back into this game here? Something like Careful Study, Faithless Looting? Even those, the problem is currently his only dredge card, the Stinkweed Imp, is stranded in his hand. That is the wrong place for that card.
So Anderson's going to lead off with a Brainstorm. He's going to draw a Wasteland, a Scrubland, and another Brainstorm.
Oh, so a Wasteland here. Even the Gemstone Mine only has 1 mine counter left.
Yeah, might as well finish it off, right?
Yeah, might as well. We know that it's his only mana source, so if you hit that one, Andrew Shrout has to go to his natural draw steps and first find a land, and then find a way to discard a Stinkweed Imp. And there you go.
Now Anderson's going to get in for 1, too.
Because Deathrite Shaman is a 1/2.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me. It is much appreciated. As Anderson's going to draw his Scrubland, he is going to castle. It looks to be, considering a Stoneforge Mystic, but it looks like we're going to start off with a Brainstorm. So, Wasteland, Deathrite Shaman, and Force of Will to draw. So, he let 1 Force of Will go, but he has found another one. Yeah. So, it looks like Todd is in fantastic shape this game, as he has kept a pretty good hand for the matchup, and Shrout has fumbled along here in both this game and the previous one, but to a lesser extent.
I don't know if we can say he fumbled in game number 1. I almost feel like Todd Anderson came out of nowhere and intercepted that game.
Yeah.
If we're going to use football parlance. I don't really feel like Andrew Shrout made any huge misplays there in game 1.
I really feel like, looking back on that, and, at some point we'll go back and watch that game as well, I really feel like Shrout should have won that game somehow. 3 Bridge from Belows, multiple Icarids, multiple Cabal Therapies, and at one point Todd's hand was 4 lands, I think.
And certainly when that happens, any decision you make, you can second guess. But I don't think there were many avenues where he should have played it differently.
Yeah. So another Deathrite Shaman here for Anderson. Shrout draws his card. Unhappy, does not look like a land. And he's just going to concede the game, knowing that Batterskull's coming into play and 2 Deathrite Shamans are active. So Todd Anderson's going to move on to 7-1 with Esper Deathblade. Andrew Shrout takes his 2nd loss, moves down to 6-2. So I don't think we're going to see back-to-back top 8s for him and Dredge. But congratulations to Todd Anderson, the player with the most Open Series top 8s. As next round, it looks like he might be able to draw, he may not be able to, but at the very least he has the opportunity to play for top 8.
He has the opportunity to play for top 8, and in the past, I mean, Todd has shown the proclivity to play it out even when he has the option drawn, because he sees the power, he knows the power of being the higher seed in the top 8 and having the play all the way throughout. And he's reached the point in his Magic playing career where he's not just happy with making a top 8, he wants to win it all, so he may play it out anyway to get the higher seed and give himself the best opportunity to come home with another trophy.
Now, the play first draw, the option to play or draw based on higher seeding is a new change to Magic. It's a couple years old, now, but you know it's pretty new to a lot of people, and we've kind of instituted here on the SCG Live and SCG Open series. How do you feel about this rule? Because some people like it and other people don't like it because it causes people to play in the last round, knock somebody out of the tournament. I know this happened to me in Seattle where I was 8-0-1 and I decided to play in the last round against my opponent, where he just